Jovan, Jovan Pulitzer. I am an inventor and pattern recognition expert. I'm also part of the Gold Institute of International Strategy out of Washington, D.C. So to understand what I'm going to talk about today, even though I'm a technology guy, my goal is to make it really simple, really obvious. I'm not going to be talking about codes on machines, how things are swapped, server overseas. I'm just going to show you the simple basis of what possibly went on, but most importantly, how this is fixed, how it's detected, fixed, and will never happen again. And that basically is based on my technology background for over the last 30 years. Just so you have a little basis in it, the fact that your phone now can scan a barcode in any grocery store or any kind of code, or in fact you hear Q codes here today, any type of machine readable code as it talks to the internet, that's my technology. It's a basis of my patent portfolio of about 200 patents on that particular one. My patents are so prolific in licensing that every manufacturer in the world basically licenses my patents to use on any mobile device except one, Huawei out of China. They don't license it, they just use it. And I'm on approximately about 12 billion devices globally. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, keeping it simple. What could have happened here? How can it be detected and confirmed? And then how can this hole be plugged from now on? Because this is about vote verification. It's 3 Ps that I'm going to deal with today. First, the people. Second, paper. And 3, protection. That's all this is about. I want to kind of show you what I'm talking about when I talk about kinematic artifacts. Kinematic is just a nerdy word for evidence on paper. When 2 physical forces come together, right, and a paper is bent, there's always going to be an example of that. All of us have dealt with this. Machines have very hard, strict rules. You can go to the bank. You can use your debit card. If you put in your PIN wrong, it kicks it back. It keeps asking you, no, correct this, no, correct this. Now, you know your money's there. But if you enter your PIN wrong, it won't work. Same thing with your password for your email. So machines have very, very hard rules. A lot of those rules are also in the physical world. So before anything became a rule of a machine, it became a rule in the physical world. That means somebody's hand put it in. In this case, it's paper. What I'm going to be talking about is kinematic artifacts. That's the fold that's left over. You take a brand new dollar bill and you fold it. That fold will always be there. Go to a coin machine and a snack machine, trying to get a snack out of it, put in your dollar bill, and it kicks it back. It's the machine saying, something's not right about this dollar. It's broken. It's messed up. The color's not right. We have all experienced this before. What I'm going to be talking about is kinematic artifacts. If we'll move on to the next PDF, please. I'm going to show you how my process of our team, what we're going to do, and if we can enlarge that, that'd be great, is we can detect what I'm calling the counterfeit. There is nothing new that I'm going to be sharing with you today. This is how counterfeit bills are detected. This is how counterfeit art is detected. This has already been adjudicated. It's not new science. It's just never been applied to these very important things in our process. It's about the people. The people want confidence that their vote matters, period. I personally do not care how this comes down, but I do care about the vote being counted and the vote mattering. Whatever our system can detect, and that's what we're here to do, is offer something that can remedy this immediately, the numbers will speak for themselves. The people need that confidence. We need to give the people of Georgia that confidence. But this is not about Georgia. The United States is watching. And this is also not about the United States. The entire world is watching this process. You know, people come, when I was coming in here to Georgia last night, yes, sir.
Mr. Pulitzer, thank you for testifying.
Thank you.
If you were able to take counterfeit, if you were able to get your hands on the State Farm Arena absentee, on the ballots that were run between 10:30 and 1:30 in the morning, would you be able to tell if they were folded, and would you be able to tell if they were counterfeit?
We would be able to tell if they were folded, if they were counterfeit, whether they were filled out by a human hand, whether they were printed by a machine, whether they were batch fed continually over and over. We can detect every bit of that.
Thank you.
Certainly. And so coming here last night, I drove in. The driver from Uber, his fellow name was Christopher. He was Nigerian. He came here to start a business. He's been here 5 years. He legally immigrated here. His brother came first, and he's hoping for his next two sisters to come. And his whole goal is to start a tire company because it's about capitalism for him. He says, I want my own business. He was a lecturer on economics in Nigeria. But he came here because he wanted what we had here in the United States and in the state of Georgia. Opportunity, right? But more importantly, if you look at the people that come to this country, it's not just about opportunity and freedoms. They are coming to our country from countries that have one additional thing. They come from countries where their votes don't matter, where their votes mean nothing. And they know here in the United States what we're supposed to stand for is votes matter. Your voice, one voice matter. And so that little bitty piece of paper that we're all talking about here, the ballot, it got chosen too. It was a generic piece of paper, and one day it comes out in the system, it's a ballot. However, when that ballot is filled in by a voter, it becomes a historical artifact. It is what changes that very simple piece of paper into something that can change or guide a nation. And so we have to look at these artifacts. We have to look at this documentation of what the one person expressed in their intent. And so we're getting confused in machines. Let's just talk about that piece of paper because it's about voter intent. And if there are problems, if there are issues in machines, if there are counterfeits, everybody wants them detected because at the core of this is each vote must count. Let me show you what a kinematic artifact is. It stands to reason that in an election that comes down to the propensity of a tremendous amount of mail-in ballots, that a very simple process occurred. That piece of paper should have been folded and sent to you at home. A printer prints it out. That printer folds it. It goes into an envelope. It's tracked in the process. United States Post Office sends it out. That is tracked. It comes to your home. You receive it. You open it up. Chances are you didn't vote right then. You kind of put it off a little bit. You opened it 2 or 3 times. You finally got around to it. You put your pen to it. Folded it back, put it in an envelope, and sent it back. That entire process is a folding and rolling process. Every time that piece of paper is opened and refolded, it's like a hinge. Remember, paper is nothing but a reconstituted tree. So it's constantly breaking fibers. It is actually changing that piece of paper into something else that it can never be hidden once it's done. This is what's called a kinematic artifact. So what you're looking at on the screen is just a simple fold. Looking at it through a computer, the things the human eyes can't see. But if you look at this, you can see even the paper on the front side of the fold to the back side of the fold changes frequency. It becomes a whole different level of light frequency. If you look at the bottom, on the left, you're looking at an oval filled out by a machine. The two on the right are by human hands. The first one, that's somebody who fills in a circular motion. Handwriting is the opposite of a rocket. Rockets take off, impact. Handwriting is impact, and then you're filling in that circle, and no matter how creative or non-creative you are, your mind goes, oh, I'm finished with that. But that finish process happens in your brain first, pen second. And so you always start to lighten the load. And so those little bitty light areas you're seeing is the load being lightened by the person's hands. The second one is actually a gel pen. If you look at the one on the left, that's done by a machine. A machine can never hide that it was a machine. Can't. Because the same process of printing the ballot is the same process of printing the vote. Is there another page in this slide? Let's look at these a little bit closer in it. Go on to the next one, please. You can roll them up. So keep on going. So you're looking at 4 forms of human dynamic. First, we want to know where these things mailed. That's the definition of a mail-in ballot. Second, we're supposed to vote for them individually by person in hand. If you have a machine one in there, you didn't cast it by hand. You're looking at the 4 different types. Every pen has a signature. Every ink has a forensic signature. Every hand has a different stroke. You're looking at circular, scribbler, right? Inside out, gel, and Sharpie. Now let's go up to the next one, please. Those, no, other direction. Thank you. Keep on going. Now look at the bottom of the machine. If you're looking at it, you can see the difference between the two. The handwritten one, the ink is over the paper. Look at the bottom one. That's a machine filling in an oval, and that's a machine filling in a scribble. But you can still see through it. You see all the little bitty dots? That's because the machine still prints the same exact way, just a little denser. It can always be detected. And unless the ballots all had original scribbles, that scribble can be detected. Every time that scribble shows up, we find it, we map it, and all of a sudden, if you have 50 of these scribbles, or even if you have 2, you technically have a problem. Things I'm hearing about that concern me, and this is what concerned me when I looked into this. So I'm the guy that told the world that, hey, that little bitty barcode that means a product can talk to the internet. And so things started to be tracked that way. Everything you see sitting out here on the committee's table that has a barcode can now talk to the internet. That's what I'm responsible for, making the physical world talk to the internet world. What bothers me in this process is to continually hear there is no, when you get adjudication, there's no paper trail, or that's kind of wiped, or you can't tell what the predecessor was. That's disturbing. That's the first rule of forensic audits, and if it was an accountant in a corporation, you'd be fired. If you ran the financials for a public company and the numbers didn't match, and all of a sudden you couldn't adjudicate it and show the records, you'd go to prison. Now, this is as simple as scanning a loaf of bread at a grocery store. When you walk in and buy a loaf of bread and it works off that barcode, that's your vote. You're walking in saying, I want this bread. This is my candidate. You walk up to the cash register. You're handing it to the checker, or you're doing it yourself. That's basically the polling machine. And when that scan happens, it goes, loaf of bread, $2. That's what you expect. That's what you committed to. But if all of a sudden that scan said, sorry, it's a transmission change for your car, you owe us $5,000, you would have a conniption fit. What's sad about this is we're not even performing at standards that we expect out of grocery stores. We're not even performing at standards that you would accept from your online purchase. When you fill that shopping cart, you expect that shopping cart to be exactly what you chose. And if you had a problem with Amazon because they shipped you 20 things you don't need but still charge you, you would be on the phone to Amazon complaining. They would have to audit it, figure it out, and make it right. But we don't do this in elections. We play hide and seek with documents. We don't turn documents over, which are the property of the taxpayer. Federal law states this has to be available for 22 months for audit and inspection. That is a federal law ratified many times over. But yet somebody can sit and say, no, we don't want to show you. You don't have access to it. That is an issue. All of these issues we can fix if we can get access to the artifact that the voter intended. And what is that? That's the physical ballot. I heard about testimony about Q codes. They wouldn't run in the machine. The one thing that was common that wouldn't run into the machine was what? You heard it, the Q code. And then you heard it had to go through a secondary audit, and it still didn't run for the employee of Dominion. They had to do it over and over and still didn't run. You know what the common denominator is in that? The code. If you go to an ATM, put in the card because you have the card, but put in the wrong PIN, what happens? Reject, 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 reject. That paper ballot was reading that code. That code was what was making it fail. It should never occur, ever. What it was really telling you is, I've seen this before. I've seen this before. I've seen this before, and they're using the code to adjudicate it out. It's a trick in systems commonly used. Let's take a look at some of these things. This is a Fulton County ballot. You can see the voting area of Fulton County on this one. We referred to it as 08L. It narrows down to Roswell, Georgia. These are physical ballots. You know, people got extra ballots. Some people got 5 ballots. Some people got 10 ballots. Tremendous amount of Texans got Georgia ballots. all kinds of interesting things happen, right? If you ever lived in Georgia, even people that moved away 10, 11, 12 years ago, they got ballots to vote in Georgia. So here you're looking at a ballot in Fulton County. This particular county, not according to my data, but according to public data, says 67.7% of the people voted Democrat. I'm just pointing this out so you understand. I use traditional coding, the blue for the Democrat side, the red for the Republican side. Let's take a look at the next ballot, please. This is a ballot for Buckhead, Georgia. This particular one says that 69.2% voted for the Republican Party, right? This one is what we call our ballot. Will you roll back to the first one? Look at the top right corner of that ballot in the block that says Fulton County. Now go to the next ballot. Look at the top right corner right there that says Roswell or Buckhead. Why is there not a tracking code in that ballot? That's the code that makes it cross-checked to the signature. Why is it absent? There are a lot of these inconsistencies in these ballots, and they run along party lines. Next slide, please. So here's the sample. Yes, sir, you have a question?
When we're looking at, I'm just watching across Buckhead, Georgia, on your left side, Morgan County. I just want to make sure we're comparing apples and apples. Is there something here that's off with the data? Because it looks like we're talking about Buckhead, Georgia on your left side and Fulton County, which would be the neighborhood of Buckhead on your right side.
I'm actually showing you the two ballots and what they relate to. I don't program that. I don't write that. That's in your servers. That's what your state says. So I am serving you back according to the coding on this ballot right up in the corner of what it says it relates to.
So on the left side, did our servers make the left side of your screen that says politics and voting Buckhead?
The left side is actually the public data you can pull based on neighborhoods and areas, based on the propensity of how they voted
and then
in past elections.
The bottom is Morgan County, Georgia, but we're using the Fulton ballot. So I'm just making sure that...
I'm just giving you examples of the general areas, right? So you understand how they break down. This is the only breakdown that's available, right? And when you put in that precinct and that zip code, this is the only information available.
My question is, though, while I support your end premise, I believe, I'm concerned your data may not be the accurate data.
That's awesome, because that's not the data I'm even referring to.
Okay.
Let's get to the ballot and talk about the exact ballot, because here's why. I'm not the webmaster for this. Neither are you. I'm not the webmaster for that. Neither are you. I can throw that off the slide, and we can focus on the ballot instead of what doesn't matter. Here's what matters.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, because I'm afraid that your boxes refer to a different county. So I'm wondering...
I'm referring to the ballot.
Okay.
And if you want to continue to refer to the ballot, I will show you the ballot.
That would...
Might I invite you to ignore every footnote that goes with the ballot, only focus on the ballot.
Okay.
Right? Then we'll focus on the same exact thing.
Then we could still be talking... Okay, that's what I was wondering is...
That's all we're talking about. We're only talking about here, Georgia ballots. So if you look at this ballot here, you can confirm on your own what district that comes from. You can see it right underneath there, right?
The boxes have nothing to do with the presentation, the box on the left and the box at the bottom.
No, the boxes have to do to give you some reference to what outside sources say about where the ballot area is.
That's not the right ballot area.
I would suggest you submit that to the webmaster that does this for the state. I don't program it. I don't say it. And do me a favor. Will you scroll down? No, scroll down. Cover up that bottom. Now, if you look at the screen, let's look at the ballot. Don't get distracted in anything else.
Okay.
That might not even be the right red for the Republican Party or the right blue for the Democrat Party. But let's look at the ballot, may we? In fact, if you'll blow it up so big,
that would help.
If you'll just blow it up so big that people who can't connect the dots will get it, let's just look at the ballot, right? This is called simple. Let's go even further. They might get distracted by the left side. There you go. That is so fat and so big you cannot miss we're talking about the ballot. Do you agree? Okay,
do.
and I'm not going to roll up to the bottom so nobody gets concerned. So let's look at the differences between the two. You see the code on the right?
He's talking about
That barcode?
Okay.
Let's scroll back to the other one. Please be very careful not to show any other data to confuse people. Let's go up. There we go. Keep on going. And now let's look at the right side of the ballot. See that? There's no code there. Okay?
where it would be right there. Okay, that's the point. Okay.
Yeah, so there's no code there. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Side to side. Okay. I didn't print this ballot. I do not assign the districts. I only look at the ballots. This is what the ballot says. Let's go into the next slide, please. Okay. Again, you can discard the information at the bottom if it confuses you. We have
Sir, can I stop you for a second?
We have a yes.
Do you mind if I show you? It's not confusing. I want to show you what I was saying.
It's not. I'm only talking about the ballot. I got it. I understand completely what you're saying. I'm only talking about the physical ballot. On that, we agree.
Okay, good deal. That's
100%.
I was wanting to make sure that we were on the same.
100%. I think
Okay.
we're all on the same page. So please, let's zoom up so there's no confusion. You have a ballot from a Democrat propensity area on the left. I did not print the ballot, have nothing to do with it. You have a ballot from the same county on the right. I did not print the ballot, I have nothing to do with it. You're only looking at them side by side. Why is the code not there? Now let's go to the next one, please. We'll scroll it up. Okay, that code, I didn't create any of these graphics. These come from third parties. They come from how your state adjudicates these. These come from what are the checkstums in the barcode. Basically, that barcode that you see missing up there is what helps adjudicate it. And if you want to zoom it way up to the bottom there, none of these graphics are mine. Keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going. That's how you verify and adjudicate and tabulate and correlate that code. So we've now established that, wow, that code's not there. Can we go to the next slide, please? Great. Okay, let's get rid of the top so we don't get confused between the icons of the parties, and let's just look at a ballot. We've all been hunting probably or know what hunting is. We look through a scope. There's a crosshair in the center. You put that crosshair on exactly what you want to hit. That's called hitting the target. If you have hunted in your life and you're not lined up on the crosshairs and you're doing a 50-yard shot and you're kind of going to the bottom right, you're going to miss whatever your target is. I have questions about these targets. I have simple questions and forensics. Why is the ballot from one county on the left, why does it have a completely separate code in it than the one on the right? These are actually coded to where they come from. Why should you be able to look at a ballot and know whether it came from a Republican area or a Democratic area? This concerns me. I don't think you should be able to know. Can we look on to the next one, please? So let's use this target here. We'll use top pass first.
Senator Rhett had a question while you're there.
Did I see it? Sure.
I just have a quick question.
Can you speak in the microphone? I'm sorry, I'm unable to hear you.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering if the scanners won't show creases because the images are usually of a very low quality.
No, sir. All the machines scan at 300 DPI, which is the default, which is a standard used in any forensic investigation, right? So they all scan to the same confirmation level. So from San Francisco, California to here, they all have the same exact scan level. It's just inherent to the machine and what they see.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. The things that concern me, the ballot on the left, again, I just color-coded them to make them easy. I'm not saying everybody that lives there is a Democrat, and I'm not saying everybody on the right living there is a Republican. I'm just calling your eyes. I use this as coding so you can see what I'm saying. However, what's really interesting to me is the ballot that goes to the Republican area is printed completely off register. You remember when I told you you feed $1 to the snack machine and it kicks it back? It's because that dollar's broken. It's off register. The machine says, I don't recognize this. I don't recognize this. What do you want me to do with it? Now, when it comes to a snack machine, it keeps on spitting the dollar bill out at you until you finally put in one it agrees with. But a PIN for your bank account to access your money, it's put in the right code. In the voting machines, it's saying, adjudicate me, what's going on here? Well, that's just also like a citing device. You see how far that register is off? It makes the paper talk differently than what the machines trade to look at. Can we roll up a little, please? Yes, sir.
Do you agree that the boxes along the left and right side of the ballot create horizontal scanning areas, and the marks along the bottom edge and the top edge create scanning areas? So you have a grid on the paper.
They're like waypoints, like in GPS. It's what tells everything how to communicate.
So
if you'll scroll back to a bigger ballot, please, so we can look at, keep on going backwards. Just keep on going until you, there you go.
There you go.
All those hash marks on the top and bottoms, all of those are citing, communication, and adjustment devices. Let me give you an example. Long before computers talked with programs, they talked with paper. They punched little holes in paper, and that's what programming. That's what you're looking at. That's the paper basically telling the machines to program itself. Yes.
So the marks along the left hand and the right, the vertical square boxes, they create horizontal lines or regions on the ballot.
It's only an outside adjustment. It does not create a line.
But for scanning purposes, optically, when it gets to a black box on the vertical edges, it creates a scanning area across the ballot horizontally.
That's not the actual description of what it creates.
I can describe it maybe another way. If you take that ballot right there and you print it out, and you take a straight edge and you draw from the top of the box on the left side to the top of the box on the right side, the bottom of the box on the left side to the bottom of the box on the right side, you create a series of horizontal lines.
You can connect these like a grid. Yes, sir.
And you can do the same from top to bottom.
Correct, sir.
So the width of the box on the left and the right has nothing to do with anything other. The width has nothing to do. It could be 1/8 of an inch wide or 1 inch wide. It still creates 1/8 of an inch wide scanning region across.
Untrue.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but the signature of the ink creates something different. You can't, well, there you go. I'll give you a simple test. Take a $1 bill out of your pocket. Take a $5 bill out of your pocket, cut off the 5, put it on the 1, run it through your snack machine out there, see what happens. It's all going to be the same size. It's all going to be the same markers. It's all going to be the same detection things, but that's going to kick it back because the computer must see it exactly. So you can do this own test yourself, right? It has to be exact. We, in the human world, we deal with variables all the time. That's what we're talking about in ballots. Oh, we heard it. Oh, I think that's a vote for this guy. When somebody else says, no, it's a vote for this guy. What you just described was an opinion of variable. Machines don't operate that way. Machines have hard, absolute fact rules.
Yeah, I know you don't know me. I'm actually an electrical engineer myself and have designed coin and currency processing equipment and dealt with currency scanners, so I know a whole lot about how they work. All I'm saying is all the little ovals on that ballot are lined up in that grid.
Well, are we talking about the ovals or are we talking about the hash marks on the side?
I'm talking about the ovals are lined up with those.
The ovals have an exact location on the paper. We use all of those hash marks, top to bottom, left to right, to find out where that is.
So,
let's share some common technology or terminology if it helps us communicate here. Number one, regardless to the machine, I don't care about the machine. I don't want to run another ballot through a machine. That's why we're here. So I do not care about how the machine reads it and what you're doing. I care about getting to the physical ballot. So in our world of what we're doing, which you'll understand this as a mechanical engineer, I've now said, I don't care about the machine. So now all those rules went right out the door. What I'm talking about is that piece of paper. What we do is we use those hash marks for something different. And those hash marks for something different are basically what we do when we look at the ballot. So this is the arena with no regard to what it was to do in the machine. We call it the stadium, the arena. Then when you go to the presidential area, we call that the football field. That one happens to be the Super Bowl field, I think we can agree. And you have other ones that are the state and college and local levels. And then all of them have a game ball in play. I have no regard for the smoke and mirrors of how the machines work, the hidden stuff in the code, or how this machine's supposed to be programmed. If the machine worked according to programming, none of us would be standing here. We're here because something broke. And so I'm saying, I don't care about the machine. I don't even care about the code that was written in the machine. What I care about is that physical artifact. And you know what? That physical artifact has material differences from district to district that should not be there. Now, we can all talk about, well, it's scan lines and it's this. You know, as a mechanical engineer, that doesn't create a scan line, period. That's not what creates the scan line. So, bottom line is we have differences in ballots that shouldn't be are there. Why are they there? That's why I said earlier, I'm not talking about code, because that's how this process gets derailed. That's how the smoke and mirrors happens, and nobody's get to it. Please, let's go to the bottom. So we use that as the stadium, and we have the football field, and we have the ovals. We're only looking for it. Let's keep on going forward. Here's what does matter. You as a mechanical engineer can understand this. There's the sighting device. That is the item that tells the optical eye, technically, although in mechanical engineering speak, it's not a singular eye anymore, but we'll just use that as an example. That's telling the sighting device where to look. You, as a mechanical engineer, knowing forensic, knowing dollars, writing codes, doing whatever, you yourself know that when it doesn't line up, the machine doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. It's the difference between pulling your dollar bill out like this and looking at it, pulling the same dollar bill but doing it cross-eyed. One of them doesn't make sense. One of them doesn't look at the same thing the other thing does. That's why this paper is a piece of code. So we don't care about the scan lines. We don't care about the resolution. We don't care about any of that. We care about the piece of paper. And if you're looking at the bullseye, can we draw that up and try to keep them both in frame? Just the targets on the bottom. There you go. If we're looking at the bullseye, the very thing that says, hey, look here. Well, the left one's saying, look in my yard, and the right one's saying, look 2 houses over. But you know what? The ovals never moved because they were printed hard. So even as a mechanical engineer or photography or optics or camera, when you expect to take a picture and you hold it at somebody, you're not trying to photograph 2 people over. And this is what it tells the machine to do. This is a problem at the most lowest elementary level. And the number one way it's cloaked, well, we can't see it in the code. We don't know how it's done. Show me the code that does it. Well, that's the code. That's the code. Any printer industry executive, any monetary printing executive, any engineer in the world that deals with printing will tell you this simple fact. If your machine is not calibrated to hit the target, it becomes something else. So if we talk about machines and we talk about code, it is a smoke and mirrors not to deal with what's real and physical. Here's my contention. This is the historical artifact of a voter. And states are telling voters, you have no right to that. The very voter that pays your salary, that paid for that ballot, that paid for that piece of paper, and paid for the machine that you're running it in. And so those people that pay your salary that you work for and do this for, you're telling them you can't look at them. That is both unacceptable and un-American. What I'm saying is all of these problems you've heard today can be corrected and detected now by the simplest of things. It takes you days or weeks to recount votes. Give me these 500,000 ballots. We'll have them done in 2 hours. How can you complain? What is there to hide with the physical artifact of the human interaction that is putting people in office? That is unacceptable, un-American, and to talk about it any other way is smoke and mirrors, is geek gobbledygook. We want to know if these ballots are authentic or counterfeit. We want to make sure every vote is verified. This is not about President Donald J. Trump or President-elect Joe Biden. This is about, are we still a country where your vote matters? One person, one vote. If you refuse to allow the ballots to be examined, the ballots, not the smoke and mirrors, but the ballots, let the machine look at it, not the voting machine that already messed up. Machines do what you tell them. You just have it look at that and verify the vote. There's only one element that will do that. The historical artifact of the people of the United States of America, and here, the people of the state of Georgia. They trusted you that this was right. They trusted you that your vote would matter. They trusted you, I have a voice and I want my voice counted. That is only that piece of paper. It is unforgivable for somebody to be able to audit something and then the original one disappears. How convenient. You know, if you did it in your company as a mechanical engineer and you had your CPA do it or your financial guy, you'd fire them. And that's just one little bitty company. But yet we accept this as a nation? Unacceptable, un-American. So our technology can answer every bit of these. If you want to roll up, I don't even know if there's any more. So let's look at this. Here's what I have a problem with, is simplest state. This is the county's statement on ballots. Went out on national TV. We had 113,130 votes at the time, and we had to adjudicate 106,000 of them. You know what that's really saying? Your machine didn't work. When the national average for the last elections, 2016, was what? 1.2%. That's an audited number. 1.2% of the total had to be adjudicated. And then you look at 2018, nationally, 2.7%. But yet your own election officials said we had to do this 93.6% of the time. Let me decode that for you. Mr. Mechanical Engineer, your machine doesn't work. Mr. Printer, your ballot's screwed up. Because you took something that should have been transparent and easy and readable and you put an opinion smack dab in the middle of it. How is that acceptable? That's like depositing $100 and your bank says, well, we only see it as $2.33. That's our opinion of it. Would you accept that? Because that's the net effect of this. No, it is unacceptable. And by the way, where everybody talks about batch scanning, which you have on video, people standing there feeding the ballots, doing the 3-card Monty, run them again. 1-card Monty, run them again. Let me tell you how that works, right? You don't go to the bank and deposit $1,000 and say, hand it back. Let me run the same $1,000 through, and now you got a $2,000 net deposit. And you don't say, hand that $1,000 back, let me run it again, and now I got a $3,000 net deposit. We also don't take our $600 stimulus check and feed it to a Dominion machine because we get $187,000 back. Unacceptable. Now, you might be able to accept these, and everybody might try to talk quietly about it and duck their heads in the sand. This is not even a beating of a drum. This is a burning of a city. This is a broadcasting to every person who voted in Georgia. Your vote doesn't matter because we're going to decide what you really meant. So I'm up here saying I don't care what anybody's background is. You know why? It's 100% irrelevant. I only care what that piece of paper tells us. And I'm not going to listen to anybody else. You know why? Because I'm not going to be talked out of the historical artifact that the person expressed. That is the only thing that matters, not your opinion of how these machines work. It doesn't matter at all. That is just an opinion, and we all got one. The fact is the paper. The paper. Verify the vote. Verify the vote. The paper. The paper. I don't care about the councils or committees. I'm sorry. And in case you didn't tell, I'm not going to bow to it. I do care about the American people. I do not care how the vote comes down. I do care that it counts right. I do care that it's authentic. Our country was founded on a piece of paper. Our laws and our word came down to us on paper. And all of a sudden we're going to hide the paper and we don't get to look at it? Unacceptable. That is the word.
I think there was a well-coordinated effort with several groups to commit widespread and systemic fraud from out-of-state voters, felons voting, and drop boxes, chain of custody, and now finding out the Dominion machines didn't scan from her testimony. But I think the real fraud, in my opinion, occurred at the State Farm Arena. Did you see that video?
Yes, sir.
I cannot think that there was not fraud there. And I would tell you, my question to you is, if we were able to subpoena those ballots between 10:30 and 1 a.m., would you be able to tell if they were counterfeit or legitimate? And if you were, what probability would you be able to tell that? I mean, what would be the probability of your
This is
findings?
100%, and let me tell you why it's 100%. First off, this is a combination of computer vision. Computer visions are now how your car self-drives, and you trust that. It's how we look at everything on an assembly line, that those tolerances for that jet engine are perfect so that plane does not fall out of the sky. That's all computer vision. Machine learning is looking at these patterns and going, I've seen this. What does it mean? I've seen this. What does it mean? So every time you feed in a ballot, it keeps on learning. And then it uses artificial intelligence. And the artificial intelligence goes, wow, what do all these patterns tell us? That's it. And so on those ballots, you could take a section of every hour of the day and look at them, or you could take that spike. What could we tell? Was this the real ballot? Did you know there is a forensic difference between a ballot that was officially printed and something that ran on a high-speed press that should have never been on a duplicated press? This is why people are screaming to look at the physical ballot, because we will tell you instantly what came out of a mass copier versus what came out of a printer. Officially printed. We will tell you, did a human fill this out or did a machine fill it out? We will tell you, was it mailed or was it not mailed? It can be checked against spoiled or adjudications. There's still going to be a difference in number. And last but not least, we will tell you, have we seen this number before? Did we see it keep popping back up? We're looking at the wrong things. I suggest every one of you, if you want to understand what we really should be looking at, go into your computer right now and change your clock in your computer to 1900. Watch it shut down and nothing work. And you can't get back in to change the date. This should be looked at with timestamps and dates and the correct portion of code, not the smoke and mirror codes we're being fed. And you will see what got run over and over and over and over again. That is the problem of why we must see the physical ballot as the holy grail. The second one is the digital scan. So yes, sir, all of that can be detected, unbiased, and exactly just what the forensic science says, the scientific method, not the opinion.
I was just wondering if the information you're presenting was based on your personal experience working with election machines.
My experience, this has never been done for election machines before. This is exactly how counterfeit money is detected. The elections machines have always tried to hide the physical ballots so it can't be done. What I've spent the last 24 years in understanding how papers and machine and internet interact. I spent the last 6 years almost understanding the paper reading details at the nano level. I can tell you what paper came from China. I can tell you the person that handled it was a smoker. All of it is detectable with the physical ballot. So yes, 24 years doing this, the last 6 years doing it in the new field of science, looking at it at the nano level. We don't even have to look at color anymore. We look at waveforms and frequencies and lines and curves. But yes, sir, 100% detectable, and this is what my whole career has been about. And it is also why a tremendous amount of the functions on your mobile phone work. You interact with me 8, 9, 10 times a day on your phone. You just didn't know it was this loud guy, right, who has a hearing problem. I'm very sorry, but it's just the way it is, right? It's probably because I grew up the youngest and I had to talk over my older brothers and sisters. It's just kind of the way it goes. But you interact with me, and you depend on these things. When you walk into an airport and you no longer present that boarding pass and use that phone, that code's there, and you boop, and you go through, that's me. And you depend on that to get on that plane and make sure they have your reservation. These are simple. These are simple. And in case you can't tell, I can get really technical and geeky, but I try not to because this is simple.